Welcome to CoffeeZilla, guys. Today we have a bit of a different thing going on. We're going to do, I don't know what to call this series yet, but we're going to start talking to people who run real businesses with legit jobs to teach some of you guys that after you get out of the guru bubble, what do you do? How can you set yourself up for success? And I know a lot of you guys, some of you want to go alternate career paths. I'm a big fan of trade school. I don't think everyone needs to go to college. So for our first guest today, I'm very happy to have probably the biggest plumber on YouTube, Roger Wakefield, who's here to tell us a bit about the plumbing trade, how you can get into it, and why you should consider it as a viable career option. Thank you, Roger, for coming on the show.
No, thanks for having me here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so to get into it, I think more than most trades, people think of maybe plumbing as like dirty. They don't really understand what goes on in a day in the life. And sure, I'm sure you get your hands dirty from time to time. But tell me a bit about how you got started.
I was actually 16 years old. I was managing a restaurant. I was a junior in high school. And late one night, I'm working with a real good friend of mine. And I mean, still one of my best friends today. And we're talking, and I had actually quit school. And he looked at me and said, so what are you going to do? He said, are you going to manage restaurants forever? And I said, dude, I'm 16 years old. I'm managing a restaurant. Life is good. I was probably making $5 an hour or something. And he said, what happens if you get fired? Who's going to hire a 16-year-old restaurant manager? And it was crazy. Not long after that, I either quit or got fired. He was telling me that night about his 3 brothers and his father that were all plumbers. And I remembered that conversation. So I contacted one of his brothers. I got into plumbing and I fell in love with it. I found out later that I had to have my diploma or something in order to get my plumbing license. So I went ahead, and luckily I was far enough ahead when I quit. So I went back to high school, graduated with my class, and got back into plumbing. And that's how it all started for me.
You said you fell in love with it. That's what I'm most interested in, because I think a lot of people, they think of life callings as if some siren in the sky is going to sing down to them and say, you should be a whatever. And I'm of the mindset, this is my personal belief, that you fall in love with what you're an expert at. And as you get better at something, you fall in love with it more because your expertise really conveys a sense of like purpose and meaning. Did you find that to be true, or how did you fall in love with plumbing?
In the beginning, it was something I enjoyed. We were literally, it was a remodel, a commercial remodel is the very first project I ever did. But it blew my mind how you could take a building and add on to it and tie on to the existing plumbing, electrical structure and just make it bigger. And I tell people all the time, if you're interested in getting into the trades, and remember, not just plumbing, but the trades.
Exactly.
And I tell people, do you like to build things or do you like to fix things? If you like to build things, you probably want to get into the new construction end of it. If you like to fix things, you probably want to get into the service side of it. And then I go on from there and I ask people, do you want to do residential, which is just 1 or 2 story houses, something like that?
Right.
Or do you want to do commercial and build big office buildings? One of the biggest jobs that I ever did is I built the 2 million square foot community hospital here in Dallas, Parkland Hospital. And it was amazing. Loved it. I've done some great things and thoroughly enjoy it. But now what I do is I do residential service. So when I opened my own company, I knew it's going to be easier for me to start a residential service company than it is anything else. So I always ask people, build things or fix things, commercial or residential. And then my last question is union or non-union. When I got into plumbing, I just wanted to be a plumber. That's all I knew. Now there's so much more about it, the opportunities and things you can learn and things you can do. So it's been very interesting.
Yeah. Sorry if you can hear my dog in the background. He's going crazy right now.
Thank God it's yours. My dog's here and it's in the other office and I'm hearing it through the headphones.
Oh, I can't hear that at all. Yeah.
I guess it's yours because I kept thinking, God, if that's Harley, I wish they'd make him be quiet.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I tried muting myself during your answer, but anyway, sorry to the viewers. That's what that is.
Hey, we're both dog guys, people. Get over it. It's okay.
That's absolutely right. So I think that's a really interesting side is people, I think just due to a lack of knowledge, and that's what I'm hoping to somewhat address in this series, is a lack of knowledge about how broad and diverse jobs that you think of as like, oh, you're just a plumber or you're just an electrician, or they think like one size fits all. And the truth about these jobs is usually that there's a million different directions you can go with it. I mean, you said you own your own company now. That's something that I know a lot of my audience is interested in, and they perhaps never thought of like, oh, this is a viable career path and a common career path for people in the trades is to eventually start their own company when they have, enough experience. So can you speak a little bit to that? Because a lot of my community is very entrepreneurial minded, but they're just listening to these online gurus that are telling them you're going to make $1 million in a couple years or whatever. Can you speak to your journey to becoming successful and how long it actually takes?
Absolutely. I've got 40 years experience. So I've done this for a long time. Literally when I started 1980, and one of the things that my buddy told me that night, he said, look, robots will never take this job away from you. And at the time, they were talking about, look, one day robots are going to rule the world. We're going to have flying cars by now.
They're still saying
yada, yada. I know. Y'all are hearing the same thing we heard when we were kids. Just remember that. We heard it a long time ago. We're still not there yet. The neat thing about it, though, is it's true. Robots are never going to be able to get out and do the things that we do, at least not anytime soon. So if you're interested in becoming an entrepreneur, think about it like this. If you go to college, say you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, let's not even say that. Just to say you want to be a CPA, something that you need a good college degree for. You're going to have 4 years of school, anywhere from, let's say, $25,000 to $50,000 a year. So your education is going to cost you $100,000 to $200,000 over a 4-year period. You can join a trade school, either become a plumber, become an electrician, a carpenter. There's a lot of different trade schools out there, a mason. It doesn't have to be just plumbers and electricians. There's roofers, there's HVAC techs. Yeah. You bet. There's a lot of different things. But the thing is if you join a union or a trade school and you get an education over the 4 years, which the Plumbers Union here in Dallas, it's a 5-year training program. But over that 5 years, you start out at $17 an hour and you end up, right now it's at about $34, $35 an hour. But 5 years from now, when these young men and women turn out, it's going to be about $40 an hour. So imagine if you've got 5 years invested in your training, whether it's college or a trade school. 4 years of college plus 1 year out looking for a job and getting a job, you're still entry-level position with not much history, not much background, not much experience. So you're going to be at an entry-level pay. If you go through the union training program and I say union training program just because I used to teach in the union and I'm familiar with it. But if you join the union at the same time that you would have started college, now 4 or 5 years later, you're making $30, almost $40 an hour. You've been making $17 an hour with 4 raises a year since then. So it's not like you just go from 17 to 34. You go from 17 to 19 to 21 and it just keeps going up. But you've been making this kind of money for 4 years. So now instead of having a student debt, you've actually had income. So what if you just took that money that you made and invested it?
Right.
You stay living at home, you go to school. And I used to know a welder. He lived at home with his parents. He was driving a brand new Chevy dually truck everywhere he went and still putting money up because he lived with his parents the whole time through his apprentice training program. So he had put up, $100,000, $200,000. Where would you rather be? Owe somebody $100 or $200 or pocket $100 or $200? It's a big delta there.
Big delta. And especially, I think one of the biggest things I would like my audience to know is that the real way to become wealthy, like everyone's always talking about, is actually savings and investments. I mean, everybody knows eventually you want to get away from your working hours being the way you make money and eventually your investments. That's definitely how the ultra wealthy are making their money. So you're right. getting that head start can make a huge difference. I have a friend who went into HVAC after kind of like jumping around jobs forever, and he loves it. I mean, he like when he first got in, he's like, I don't really know if this is right for me. But 4 years down the line, getting that expertise, getting that experience, now he likes going to work. He loves what he does. And the other thing too is it makes you a really hands-on guy. I mean, a lot of people like myself, I left college, you know, when I graduated college, I can't fix a sink. I can't, I'm a homeowner now. And it's like some of the stuff I'm having to like relearn. I'm like, oh man, I'm an engineer, but something, you know, like turning a pipe. And one of the cool things about trades is that the people you always see in the trades, I know a few people in the trades, they're extremely handy. Like you give them any problem, they'll find a way to fix it. And I think something some people should think about is when they think of hands-on stuff, you're usually talking about the trades. That's the job that's out there doing it. The engineers laying plans, they're in CAD, they're in all these things, but they're not actually on the ground in the field.
And that's a neat way you put it is they're in CAD too. My son started out, he joined the apprentice training program, came up through it. He became a pipe fitter. So pipe fitter, welder, you know, they go hand in hand. But what he did, he is now working in the estimating department. He's on the computer all day and he loves it. He's making 6 figures a year. He's still got his benefits. He goes in at 6 o'clock. He's working on a computer. They don't care what time he's there. He goes in at 6. He's off by 2:30, 3 o'clock, enjoys his day, but he's very mechanically inclined because of the things that he learned and how to use tools. It's crazy. My wife, there's so many times she's like, well, I need to put my car in the shop for this. It's like, well, I'll do that. She just looks at me and she's like, you can do that? And it's like, yeah. Man, it's just, what kind of tools do you have and what do you need to fix it? That's what it takes.
Yeah. So walk me through, I mean, you said you taught union, which I think is really interesting. So walk people through, let's say somebody sees this and says, hey man, this sounds a lot better than I thought. I want to learn more. Walk me through one, learning more, which they can actually go to your YouTube channel, Roger Wakefield, check that out. But tell me a little bit how they can learn more, and also about, okay, they decide they want to take that next step. What does that look like for them? What is that?
I've got some great videos about that, but one of the first things is the questions that I asked a while ago. You need to be able to answer those. Do you want to do residential or commercial? Do you want to do new construction or service? Do you want to be union or non-union? And let's go back even before that one. What trade do you want to do? Guys, I'm a plumber and I talk about plumbing, but everything that I'm talking about right now could be for electrical, for HVAC, for concrete, for windows. I mean, there's a million different things that involve the trades, but you need to decide what would interest you. Because what you don't want to do, if you don't like plumbing, if you think, oh my gosh, if I ever had to walk up to a stopped up toilet, man, that would never work, plumbing may not be for you. But then again, if you're one of those guys, I don't ever want to get shocked, that would just scare the heck out of me, don't become an electrician. So figure out what you want to do first. Then from there, start looking for a job or start looking for a school. If it's the union, you can go to the United Association for Plumbers, the IBEW for electricians. There's so many different unions. And to be honest, one of the best ones to join, the elevator union. The guys that build elevators have got the
Really?
amazing benefits in the world.
Are you serious?
Man, I talked to an elevator guy one day. I was on a union job, and I say union, I was a union plumber at the time, and went over and talked to him and found out that they were union. I was like, man, that's really neat. So tell me about it. They're set up where once you work over, I think it's 1,500 hours a year, everything else starts adding. So you could literally retire in like 15 years with 30 years experience because they get so many extra credits for anything over a certain number of hours. And I'm like, man, I should have joined the elevator union. But don't get me wrong, it's going to be harder to get in because there's not as much residential work.
Yeah.
But, and there's not as much elevator work, I would think, in a building as there is plumbing. But, man, at the end of the day, if you're just wanting a job that pays good and has great benefits, that would be phenomenal. Mm-hmm. You said that a lot of your people, Stephen, want to be entrepreneurs.
Yeah, 100%.
Think about it. if you're a plumber, and even a plumbing license is not really required in every state. Now, I'm in Texas. There is a license here, and we're fighting for it. But even as a plumber, I can go to school let's say it this way. I can go to school for 5 years through a Department of Labor training program. I can get my journeyman license after the first 4 years. And then after the 5th year, I can get my master license. Then really all I need is, of course, the responsible master plumber to own my own company. I recommend people get a little bit more experience than that. Right. If you want to do residential service, work residential service and learn it well. Learn business. That's the biggest thing that I had to learn whenever I finally started my own company after 35 years of working for other people. I don't know anything about running a business. I'm a great plumber. I can walk into a house and solve a problem and fix it, but I know nothing about business, making the phone ring, paying taxes, all the other things that are involved.
Right. Marketing, hiring, managerial, right? Yeah. That's really interesting. But at the same time, you've got a lot of it already solved, which is you have that hard skill. A lot of people, they want to do the business side first, but what are they selling? They don't have anything to sell. They don't have any actual hard skill that puts them ahead of anybody else. They want to drop ship on the internet, and they want the business side, but they don't have the hard skill that actually makes the business side make sense. And so that's why I'm encouraging people to go get a hard skill where you have some kind of either credentialing, or you have, if you want to do, whatever it be, have some kind of hard skill that sets you apart from other people, so that no matter what happens with your dreams of owning your own business or anything else, you can eventually have a job wherever you go. I mean, that's the thing about these trades, is that even if the business didn't work out, obviously you're doing very well now. Even if the business didn't work out, you could always just go back and go do what you've been doing.
And Stephen, what you just said is, I've actually got out of plumbing before. I moved to Austin and was doing sprinkler work, fire protection systems. I loved Austin so much, and it was the late 80s. Wasn't a lot of construction work going on. I got into the bar business. I was a bartender and a bouncer. And whenever I moved back to town, I managed a restaurant for a little while. I actually became a cosmetologist and a massage therapist.
Wow.
I mean, I used to have hair down to my waist, believe it or not. But I could always do that. But I got back into plumbing because I've always loved it. So what you just said, I mean, I could shut my company down tomorrow, move to California, and find a job plumbing. Yeah. And, since I'm part of the union, I could even try to transfer through the union if I wanted to. The opportunities are phenomenal. I have people from other countries, Africa, New Zealand, everywhere, reaching out saying, look, I want to come to the United States and be a plumber. Can I work for you? And it blows their mind when I tell them, look, I'm just a little small company, but I've grown to what I have by learning the things that I needed to learn. And the big thing that you said is, I was a good plumber, but I didn't understand marketing. Mm-hmm. That's what brought me to social media marketing world, to start studying social media. I got tired of getting ripped off by marketing companies.
Oh yeah, that's a whole thing. I mean, there's something to the idea that if you want something done, you just gotta figure out how to do it yourself. So yeah, no, I mean, social media is definitely a trip, but you seem like you're really getting the hang of it. Your set's really nice. How long have you been at this? Just curious.
Put it this way. I leave Saturday morning to go to social media marketing world. 2 years ago, I walked in for the first time and knew nothing in the world about social media.
Wow. So you're a fast learner, huh?
I've become a student of it. I love this. I think what the neatest thing about it is, I have people reach out to me and say, hey, I want to be a plumber. I saw your video. Right. You've got me excited about it. My parents want me to go to college. I'm telling them, no, this is what I want to do. And man, that makes you feel amazing.
That is really amazing. I want to actually go back to something you said that I thought was really interesting, which is that the part about people are really worried about automation and robots taking your job, whatever. It's actually funny. People don't know this. The first jobs that actually go when AI and all that stuff gets better is actually not plumber jobs or anything requiring getting out in the field. It's always the desk jobs that go first, which is the whole irony behind it. Like you used to have, accountants. Well, now you have TurboTax, where just some robot does. I mean, obviously there's still room for accountants at the higher level, but what jobs are getting squeezed out first? It's the white collar jobs. And I think people are missing that because I've been reading that, blue collar jobs people are expecting a shortage because not enough people are going into the trades. So there's this huge opportunity.
And it's not that we're expecting it. We're in the middle of it. I'm fighting with the state of Texas right now. It's taking so long to get people licensed that, we're short plumbers. You can contact any plumber in the state that owns a company and ask them, what's your biggest problem? And it's the fact that handymen are out doing our work. They're not licensed. They're not doing it right, but there's not enough plumbers. Mike Rowe talks about it. Mr. Wonderful talks about it. We've got $5 trillion, I think, in student debt, and we've got 1 million unfilled trade jobs that, people can walk right out of high school and start doing.
It seems like this huge gap and that's actually why I started, I'm trying to start this series, is it seems like there's a gap in people who are leaving high school. They don't know what they want to do. They know they don't want to go to college, but they don't know what's next. It seems like there's an educational gap in the opportunities that they have, because they think to themselves, the only thing I'm qualified for is to go work at TJ Maxx or Whataburger if you're in Texas, or whatever have you, some minimal education job, which might be fine to get you a paycheck. That's always good. But taking that next step, I don't think people realize how good of an opportunity trades are. You can get right in, right out of high school, just like you said. You set yourself up for a real career. You have a job that can take you anywhere. What am I missing here?
You're missing the best part. It's easy to get into.
Yeah.
And think about it. Like I said a while ago, right now, if you get into plumbing here in the Union Apprentice Training Program in Dallas, right out of high school, it starts out at almost $17 an hour. That's a $34,000 a year job right out of high school. And it's going to be $75,000, $80,000 by the time you get out.
Right.
There's insurance that's paid for by the employer. There's a pension plan. So you've got a retirement plan. I think the biggest problem that we've had is the public schools, and my wife used to be a teacher. We have forced college on students for so long, told them, look, if you don't go to college, you're not going to amount to anything. And I love that because I know so many plumbers and electricians that are millionaires say, okay, y'all go to college so y'all can afford to pay my bills. It is what it is.
I think speak to that a little bit. The idea that trade schools, they'll get you some, they'll get you maybe out of the poorhouse. Maybe some people think you are poor if you work trades. There's this huge, people don't know that you can become a millionaire doing these things.
But you don't even have to become a millionaire. When my wife married me, it blew her mind. I had a Jeep, I had a truck, I had a motorcycle, I've got a nice house, and I've lived in this house for 20 years. So it's not like I just bought it after I opened my own company. As a plumber, and we're going to shoot a video this afternoon, the 10 tips you need to know to make over $100,000 a year. I started making over $100,000 a year as a plumber. I think it was 1999 or 2000. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I've made under 100,000 a year since then. And I've had some years that actually got close to 200,000.
That's great.
So, and this is a plumber. I'm not talking Roger the business owner.
Yeah.
I'm talking Roger the plumber out working a lot of hours and busting his butt to make things happen. And it works. And the funny thing is, and everybody thinks, well, the union plumbers and the construction and all that is great. And if I would have learned and known what I know now as a residential service plumber, I met a plumber a while back and was talking to him. He makes $225,000 to $250,000 a year. He's a plumber in a truck every day. That's what he does.
Wow. How?
Not a bad gig. It's all in you. A lot of the old school plumbers, and this is what's so great for the young people coming up into it that really are like, look, I want to learn this.
Yeah.
As an old school plumber, and this was hard for me to get over once I started my own company. I was that old school plumber. I just wanted to run in and fix the problem, get paid and leave, run to the next job. Now I've learned, well, if I walk into your house and you've got a problem here, I want to figure out what caused that problem. Do you need a water filtration system because the chlorine is eating up the rubbers or the gaskets or whatever the case may be? Do you need an anti-scale device because you have extremely hard water and it's messing up your tub and shower valve? Well, what you don't realize, it's also messing up your dishwasher, your ice maker, your washing machine, things that you can't see. Mm-hmm. So if I learn to come in and say, Stephen, look, you've got a nice toilet here, but this toilet's 15 years old. I can rebuild it. Here's the cost to do it. I can replace it for, a so-so toilet. Here's the cost to do that. Or you can go this really nice, high-end, ultra-efficient toilet. What would you choose? And that's what it is. You give people options, and that first option may be $400. The second option may be $8. The last one may be $12. Most people are going to be like, you know what, just give me the one in the middle. Let's change it out so I'm saving some water and do this and this and this. But it's giving people options, letting them know what is best for them and what you would recommend, and then just let them choose.
So it's a bit, I mean, what you're talking about is somewhat of sales. It is about like being the expert in the room, teaching them. And that's something you learned as you grew into the job of like, okay, let me not just fix the temporary problem. Let me actually go and improve their life beyond that. And the extra bonus there is that you get to upsell people on more products and you make more money.
Here's the way it was put to me. And this is where it really clicked. And I thought, wow, because I've always been that guy. Look, I'm not going to do sales. Mm-hmm. I am not that kind of plumber. I don't want to be that kind of plumber. That's just wrong. And I was telling the guy this. He said, okay, so let me ask you this. He said, matter of fact, let me tell you a story. He said, this doctor is on tour at the hospital and he's checking the rooms, and he walks by and he sees a name that he knows. And he walks in and he says, Mr. Johnson, are you okay? He says, well, not really. He says, your arm, I mean, everything's fine. He was in the doctor's office the day before and they had to put a cast on it. He says, oh God, no, my arm's fine. He said, when I got home, I had a massive heart attack. I almost died. They had to bring me to the hospital, and now I'm in here. Doctor says, yeah, I knew that yesterday. He said, well, why didn't you say anything about it? He said, man, your blood pressure was out of the roof. It was crazy. He said, well, why didn't you tell me? He said, man, you were just there to get your arm fixed. So
right.
Think about it like that. Yeah. I mean, if you've got a problem, why not tell somebody and say, hey, look, by the way, your blood pressure is crazy. You may be fixing to have a heart attack or stroke. Let's run a test. Let's do this. Let's check this out. You may need to do this. Mm-hmm. Why not be the same way with plumbing?
Yeah. And that change. I mean, yeah, that totally makes sense why that would change the game, because you really are the expert in the room. You know what's going on. And regardless of whether you want to do sales, I mean, I think what you're saying is it's a matter of just being the expert to inform somebody what's going on in their house they may have never known. So walk me through the difference between, I want to change the subject a little bit. Because you said you need to answer residential or commercial. Let's start there. What's the difference in the experience of a plumber?
Well, remember, and I asked that question for people wanting to start out. The residential, you're going to build houses. What's neat about it, you'll normally learn all the phases. You'll get in, you'll work on the underground. You'll come back a few days later, you'll do a top out. Come back a few days later, you'll set fixtures. And those are really the three phases. Now, on commercial, jobs are normally so big, you're probably just you're gonna run water, you're gonna do cast iron, or you're gonna do things like that. They don't have all the plumbers on the job at the same time. Meaning, when we broke ground on Parkland Hospital, we didn't have 200 plumbers there for the underground. There were 5 or 10 plumbers and quality control and superintendents and things like that. As the job gets bigger and you're working in more areas, then you bring in more plumbers. So normally plumbers have their specialty. You know, hey, look, man, I can run the heck out of cast iron. I run water lines. I run gas lines. I pipe fit. I weld, whatever it is. You bring them in as you need them. Then you either cut them loose, send them to another job, whatever it is. Residential service is a little bit different. Even residential building, you know, the jobs go so fast, you really probably don't specialize on anything. You can do it all.
Right.
Now, service is a little bit different. Service, or let's go back to residential and commercial. One thing that I tell people about commercial is if you're one of these people, you love going to the same place every day, over and over and over again, because some of these big commercial jobs may last 2 or 3 years. So, you know, me, whenever I was at it, I was a superintendent over the remodel for A terminal and E terminal at DFW. I was out there for 5 years, and you get used to going. I mean, you get up, you leave the house at 4, you're on the toll road, you hit the airport at 5, you get into your office, you do your stuff, you go down and meet the guys at 6. It's the same thing every day. Now I come in, I turn on my computer, I get on social media, I go through and check the book. Where do I have guys going today? Start looking at what all we may need. Where are they going to be here? What's the schedule look like? How can I rearrange things to make it better?
Right.
But as a residential plumber, construction wise, you're normally going to be on a job a couple of days at a time, then you're going to be on another one. Service wise, whether you're commercial or residential, you're going to, like a residential service plumber may see 3 or 4 jobs a day. A commercial service plumber may see 1 or 2 because normally the problems are bigger, more entailed, yes, and it may take a little bit longer to fix.
That's a great, I think that's perfect. I mean, because the first thing I thought was when you said you have to be able to answer these questions before you get started, I thought, well, unless you know what actually goes into it, how do you know, which one you want to be? So that gives a good lesson for people. Just what you said. If you like going to the same place every day, you're someone who loves that routine. I know I'm not that person. I like doing a different thing every day. But
absolutely,
other people, I know I can rattle off 10 names right now, that they want to do the same thing the same way every single day. And what you're saying is, well, the 2 different job styles are very different and they fit different people. So I think that's to your point about the versatility of this job.
And the thing is, when I started, I was doing commercial work, it was construction, and I was non-union. Now I'm residential, service, union. So just because you start out somewhere doesn't mean that's where you're going to end up. But now that I know as much as I do, I tell people, look, think about what you like to do. It may help you stay in this trade longer and let this become a career that you really love. People that like to be somewhere different every day, like you and I, man, you put them on a commercial job that's going to last 3 years, and after 6 months, they're like, man, I'm done. I want out of here. Yeah. You bet.
So let's talk about things you've learned owning your own business. I think that's an interesting wrinkle in the whole thing. I think, so you said you'd been doing it, 30, 35 years before you started your own company?
About 35 years.
So the biggest shift had to have been going from being on that scale of I'm doing the job that I've been assigned to do. And then all of a sudden you've got the keys, you're in the driver's seat, and it's what do I need to get done? I mean, that's a huge shift in your whole mindset. What are some lessons you've learned from that?
And it's not necessarily what needs to get done, it's what has to get done. Yeah. You sign up with these customers and they call you and say, hey, we want you to come. And they expect you to come take care of them. And the thing is, and it's funny because I had this conversation yesterday. Most people, when they start out, everything is about transactions. They have to make money. So every relationship they have is transactional. It's all, hey, I need to make money. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I started out a little bit different. I knew I wanted everything to start out as a relationship. So I started getting out to real estate companies, going in and meeting and talking to real estate agents, going in and explaining to real estate agents what we do and why we do it and how we do it. I don't want to be like every other plumbing company out there. I wanted to be different. So we all run into the same problem. How do I make the phone ring? And that's where I would hire marketing companies. And Stephen, we've actually hired marketing companies that made our phones stop ringing. They'd change the web page. They'd do this. They'd do this. Yeah. And it was so bad, we'd pick up our cell phones to call the number just to see if the phone would ring. And it's like, okay, what did we do here? And I call them OPM marketing, other people's money marketing. And that's what those companies are all about. And I finally got tired of it because it would literally be like, hey, look, we need the phone to ring more. They'd be like, well, how much more money have you got? And it was like, well, what's that got to do with anything? Well, we want all the money you've got to spend on marketing to make it ring. And to me, that really shouldn't be what it's about. I wanted to build the relationships with people. That's what carried me over to social media.
Walk me through sort of a day in the life at this point. Because obviously you're much like me. I mean, I understand that your days probably aren't all alike, but walk me through, now that you're the great Roger Wakefield, you've been doing it for 40 years. What are you doing these days? I mean, you're not in the field anymore, or are you?
Oh, I still am. Like I said, my company's in Dallas, Texas. We're actually in Richardson. I need plumbers. We are short plumbers. I cannot find good plumbers. And that's why I'm still out in the field. The opportunities that I have coming in through social media far could outweigh what I'm doing in plumbing, but I am tied down to the plumbing company, and I'm looking for great people. But my normal day is I'll get up, I'll come in. I'm normally in the office between 6 or 7. I'm normally doing social media from then till up to about 8 o'clock. I grab the book, look at it, see what we got on the book. We do a huddle or a meeting with our guys every morning, and then I jump in the truck. I went out a couple of weeks ago and estimated a job where we were tunneling up under a house in 3 different areas. 1 to make repairs, 2 to grab the pipe, stub it out front and reroute it around. This morning I had to go out, lay that out, meet the dig crew, get them started. I left there and went to another job where we have been tunneling, and I needed to talk to the homeowner and let her know there's still problems there. And we went in and fixed all the big leaks that we found, but now we know that there's more. And these are very expensive projects, so I want to make sure that I'm there to talk to them. Yesterday I was on a roof unstopping a sewer. We had to climb up on a roof and run a sewer machine down it. I actually grabbed one of my video guys before we went out and said, man, come on, we're going to climb up on a roof and unstop a sewer, so we're going to shoot video. And that's exactly what we did.
I think for some people, I just hear it a lot from some of my friends, not so much in my comment section, but I know so many people who they said, I'm a guy who likes to work with my hands. I hear that all the time. A lot of guys are that way.
You bet.
And yet they don't go for the trades. And exactly what you just said. I mean, that's so interesting. Go jump up on a roof, go solve a problem. Next day you're tunneling underground. I mean, I just don't think that's what a lot of people think. They think you're going to go jump in the New York City sewers and be down there, and that's all they think of a plumber.
Yeah, and it's funny you mention that, because now that I'm on social media, I've got a company out of New York contacting me. There's a thing called Fatbergs. And what Fatbergs are, and you really need to look it up, because it is a pile or wad of baby wipes, paper, condoms, anything people flush down the toilets that build up in the sewer. They had one in London. I think they said it was this thing weighed like 100 tons. It was as long as 7 buses. I mean, this thing was huge, and it started clogging up their sewers. Well, I had a company from New York call me and say, hey, we're wanting to do a documentary on that. Would you be interested in being the plumber that goes down and looks at it and talks about it? I'm like, man, I have no problem with that. Let's go. So, but it's like, look, stuff like that interests me. Yeah. I love plumbing, and for me to get to be in an area to see things that other plumbers may never see. Yeah. Down in the New York sewers, to look at, wow, the sewer line is, 12 feet tall. we're used to running 4-inch pipe. There's a big difference.
Huge.
So, yeah. So, man, the interesting thing is my normal life as a plumber changes daily. And you put it really good. I was under a house a couple of days ago. I was on a roof yesterday.
Now you may be going down and tackling the 7 bus long.
God,
what do they call it again?
Doesn't it? They're called fatbergs, Fatbergs, like an iceberg, but a fatberg.
Is that your Moby Dick? I mean, is that you're the captain have?
That would be it. Will y'all take a picture of me next to this, please?
Dude, they don't want to take a picture. They want to get a documentary on you. That's right.
It's crazy. But I mean, it almost shut down the London sewer systems. They've had problems with it here, I think, in Michigan, in New York, some different places. And I mean, this isn't just a company. This is a company like, hey, we produce shows for HGTV, for Netflix, for DIY, for this and that. And they're like, would you be interested in doing this? I'm like, oh, yeah.
That's great. We're going to see you we're going to get you off YouTube, but you're going to be on cable, man. That's what it sounded like.
Well, and I'm not going to get off YouTube because here's my thing. I love being on YouTube because of the engagement.
Yeah, that's true.
The fact that, think about it. You sent a message to me the other day and said, hey, can we talk? I love that because I have people send me messages saying, hey, look, I want to get in the trades, but I've got questions. Okay, what questions have you got? And they're like, wow, you called. It's like, well, you sent me your number. Apparently you wanted to talk. So I love it. I love the fact that I'm in a position now where I can help people change their lives.
Perfectly said. On that note, I think we're going to start wrapping up here. I mean, I think you've answered a lot of my questions. And the biggest thing is I want to keep these episodes short enough to be engaging, but also so people know, is this right for me? I think you've spoken wonderfully to the huge opportunities. Obviously, this isn't a field that's saturated. You were saying yourself, it's almost impossible to find people. You're always looking for more people, and as are plumbing companies around the United States. So give me kind of your wrap-up pitch for why people, let's say they're out of high school, they don't know what they're doing in their life. Why should they get into plumbing and the trades?
It's something that you can literally decide what you want to do. I got in, everybody gets in as an apprentice, and people tell me all the time, I don't know anything about it. Nobody does when they get in. Whether it's plumbing, whether it's electrical, HVAC, it really doesn't matter. We don't know what we don't know. We get in, we learn it, and then we can do what we want to. As a plumber, just a plumber, you can be a plumber, a foreman, a superintendent, a general superintendent. There's possibilities of moving up, running crews, leading crews. In a residential service company, you can be an operations manager or service manager. So there's room for growth. Then if you're willing to educate yourself a little bit more, you can learn AutoCAD. You can learn estimating. You can even learn to be a project manager. Just because you say, look, I don't want to do this forever. Okay, there's opportunities to come in from out of the field, sit behind a desk in front of a computer and do a job. But this might also be your best opportunity to ever work for yourself. If you one day want to own your own company, man, think about it. In less than 5 years, I'm running a company that's doing $1 million a year in revenue. That's not a bad income for an owner, but also when I'm out in the field, I work for myself. I have the opportunity to build the company the way I want to build it, to have the culture that we want to have so that we can always do the right thing to take care of our customers. That's a cool thing to say.
That's very cool to say. Thank you so much, Roger, for coming on the show.
You're welcome. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Same here. Guys, thanks for watching. Consider the trades. Consider plumbing. Give it a shot. It's a lot... you have a lot better of a chance than with e-commerce. I'll tell you that right now. Give up the gurus, pick up a wrench, go to work. Thank you, Roger.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Stephen.